How's it going, guys? Welcome back to the Patriot DIY channel. In this video, I'm going to show you how to make your own wooden sign without a CNC machine. Alright guys, this is going to be a really fun project. I'm going to show you how to make your own wooden sign with routed out letters. I'm going to show you how to do that with just a router and no CNC machine. I know there's a lot of people out there doing this kind of thing with CNC machines, but you can do it with just the router that you already have. Now this can obviously be done with any type of wood you want to use. For my project, I'm using a live edge slab like this one. This is just a pine live edge slab. I am going to be leaving the bark on it too, so I think that's going to give it a really cool look. Now, there's a few different techniques you can use to make a sign like this, and I'm going to be using kind of a combination of all of them. We're going to be routing in the letters, we're going to be burning them in, we're going to be doing some painting, and then a coat over the top. Signs like this can be great to give as gifts. You could also make custom signs for businesses in your area to sell. And with a little practice and the methods we're going to show you in this video, it's definitely something that I think you'll be able to do. So if that sounds like something you're interested in, guys, make sure you hit that subscribe button down below, hit that notification bell, and give us a thumbs up. And as we're going along in this video, guys, as always, if you're interested in any of the tools we're using, router bits, that kind of thing, we're going to have links to all of that in the description below. Alright guys, so again, you can use any type of wood you want for this project, but I'm going to be using a live wood slab that I picked up at my local Lowe's. The first thing we're going to do is go ahead and lay out our stencil. I did design this logo myself using Adobe Illustrator. If you're interested in a software like that, I will have a link to that in the description below. But there are a lot of programs you can use to come up with your own lettering. Then you're going to want to save it as a PDF on your computer, and what that's going to allow you to do is in your print options, it gives you the option to print as a poster, and you can make it any size you want, and it'll print it out onto multiple pages like you see here that you can just piece together later. Now I'm going to tape these pages together and cut them down to a more manageable size. I'm going to figure out the placement that I want on my board and then use some painter's tape to tape that down on one edge. Then I'm going to lift up the other side and lay down some graphite transfer paper. And you can see how I'm doing this, just taping this down as I go to make sure I keep the orientation that I want on the board. Once you've done that, all you need to do is take your pencil and trace the outside of your letters. Once you do that, that graphite paper is going to transfer those lines onto the wood below. Now that we've got our design transferred onto the wood, we're ready to start with our router. Now for this, we're going to be using some engraving bits in our router. The first one we're going to use is called a profile bit. It has a very small tip on it, and what we're going to do is just go back and trace over these lines using this router bit so we get a nice clean line on the edge of each of our letters. Now I'm going to be using my Skill plunge router for this, but really any router could get the job done. You just want to set the depth for your letters. On mine, I'm going about 1/4 of an inch. I'm just going to get the router lined up. I'm going to plunge down and then follow the lines that I made previously. Once I've got the outline done, I'm going to go back with a 1/4 inch straight bit. You could also use a spiral upcut bit, and I'm going to use that to go back in and route out the inside of all these letters. I'm basically just taking out all the material on the inside of my outline, and that straight bit should give you a nice consistent depth and a nice flat bottom to your letters. Now for these smaller letters down at the bottom, I'm going to be switching out for a detail carver bit. It's a lot like the profile bit, but it has a much finer tip on it, and that's going to be perfect for working in these tight spaces with these small letters. All right, now this is looking great. We've got all the carving done. You may need to go back with a chisel, a Dremel, or some sandpaper just to clean up the edges. But now that I've got the carving done, I'm going to take it over and cut it down to its final length. And I'm going to be doing that with my Wind track saw. Now for the fun part. Now this is for a friend of mine that is a great barbecue cook, and he wants to start his own business. And I thought a great way to go along with that barbecue theme is to have a nice deep charred background to these letters. Now there's no exact science to this. I'm just kind of going with it and seeing how it goes. And you can do this with a propane torch or a MAP gas torch, which is what I'm using. And I'm just going to very carefully, really close to the wood down on the inside of my letters, I'm going to go ahead and just start burning it. And what I'm looking for is a nice deep char. Now you want to be very careful here. I'm trying to get a nice deep char on the inside of the letters, but you need to be careful that you don't do too much burning on the top surface of your sign. You can see here I'm getting a little bit of a burn on the outside of the letters, but that should sand off as long as it doesn't get too out of control. I'm just doing this in short bursts, making sure to stop and blow out the fire. I also have a spray bottle of water that I can use to put it out if I need to. And you can see here in the close-up, you get a really cool, deep, burned texture to the wood. That kind of alligator skin, charred wood texture to it, I think is going to look really cool and go great with the barbecue theme of this sign. Now I was not brave enough to attempt the burning on the small letters, and as you can see, I didn't get too close to the edges on the large letters either. And so what I'm gonna do, so I get a nice uniform black look inside those letters, is I'm just gonna tape everything off, and I'm gonna go over the top with some satin black spray paint, and that's gonna fill in all of those gaps and everything in those letters that I wasn't able to get with the torch. Now you can see we got a nice uniform black to all of our letters, but we did maintain that burned texture that we were looking for. Now to get off all that extra spray paint, all we need to do is go back with our belt sander and some 80 grit sandpaper and just work at it until we get all the spray paint off the top surface of our wood, but leave it down on the inside of our letters. And you can see once we blow away all that sawdust, you can see how those letters are really starting to pop and look great on this sign. All right, now that we've got this thing almost finished and sanded down, we're gonna go ahead and put a finish on it. I'm gonna be doing this in 2 stages. The first stage, I'm gonna be using a traditional shellac. That's gonna give it a nice durable finish and a nice rich color. So I went ahead and did a couple coats of shellac, and I think this thing is looking really great. Now you could stop at this step, but I'm gonna go 1 step further and do a semi-gloss polyurethane over the entire piece. But before I do that, I'm gonna give it a light sanding with some 220 grit sandpaper. And then I'm ready to apply my polyurethane. Now for mine, I'm gonna be using a water-based polyacrylic from Minwax. Now one thing you should know about this is it does have kind of a milky white color to it right out of the can. And I have to admit that did worry me a little bit as I was trying to carefully brush this into those letters. But as you'll see in just a minute, if you smooth that out good, once it dries, it'll be a very nice crystal clear finish. Now looking back on this, the spray polyacrylic would probably be a lot easier to apply and do a good job of getting down into the nooks and crannies of those letters. But as you'll see on the finished product in just a minute, the brush on stuff turned out fantastic. I did go with 3 coats of this finish, sanding very lightly with that 220 in between each coat. And as you can see, I did the same finish on this bark, and I think that's going to do a lot to really harden this up so that I don't have to worry about that bark chipping off. And here's the finished product, guys. As you can see, this really just turned out fantastic. Routing the letters out went very well, and I'm loving that deep burn texture that the torch gave us. The shellac brought out some vibrant colors in that wood, and then the polyacrylic gives us a really hard, crystal clear semi-gloss finish to the entire thing. Now this thing is pretty much finished. The only thing left to do is add a way to hang it on the wall. So I'm just going to be using these heavy duty D-ring hangers on the back. I'll use my speed square and a straight edge to make sure I get these lined up perfectly and just screw them into place. All right, guys, now that is it for our sign. I think it turned out awesome. I really love that live edge and that really deep charred burned in texture that we added to the letters. I think all that turned out really good. Can't wait to see their reaction when I show it to them. If you have any questions on how we did this, make sure you let us know in the comment section. And don't forget, guys, we are going to have links to all the tools we used, the router bits and everything in the description below so you can make this project for yourself. Thanks for watching, guys. Please like, share, and subscribe, and we'll see you next time.